Hi there. I want to say a few words about Lord of the Flies. A book written in 1954, published in 1954, a great book and a frustrating book at the same time. I've been reading it for 10 or 12 years with my eighth graders, so I think I've read it now more than 50 times, and I want to make a couple of thematic observations. And start with this, that the book is filled with biblical touch points, and it makes a lot of theological claims about God or study of God, knowledge of God. And those touch points, those elements that connect the Lord of the Flies to the Bible are numerous in both design or structure and plot. Structurally, the story is organized as a chiasm, and that's a common Hebrew poetry form in the Old Testament. In this case, the whole story, the whole plot structure is centered around a thematic claim at the middle of the book, the claim that in fact civilization's a dream, society is savage. And all the details of the story aim at that point. In fact, they fan outward from the middle so that the plot points that happen at the beginning of the book are going to be mirrored at the end of the book. And from the middle outward, things get progressively worse, which would confirm the claim that society is savage. So earlier they hunt and kill a pig, later they kill a person. So this is a structural connection to the Bible, but there's also content connection around the claim that society is evil, not good, and that starts with the fact that the Bible starts in the paradise called the Garden of Eden. Likewise, Lord of the Flies starts in a tropical paradise. As in the Bible, though, there is evil or a beast lurking nearby. The boys wonder if it's a snake that lives in the trees, a snake being serpent, devil, or if it comes out of the sea, or if it's the figure on the mountain, or it's the pig, which gives us the title of the book. The Lord of the Flies is the Greek word Beelzebub. And one character acknowledges or wonders if maybe the beast is only us. All of this is to say that the book deals with the questions of evil and where it comes from and why, and what we do about it, if anything. There are a couple of dominant, I would say really only two ways to address questions of good and evil. And one is Philip Zimbardo is not necessarily the leading figure. This is just a very easy quote to cite and very simple. Good people can be induced, can be compelled, seduced, lured into, and initiated into behaving in evil ways. By the way, Philip Zimbardo is the psychologist who ran the famous Stanford prison experiment, which he divided male undergraduates into a group of prisoners and a group of prison guards, and then said, okay, do prison, and they evolved quickly into a Lord of the Flies type situation where the prison guards were brutal and oppressive, and the prisoners were rebellious and angry. And there's lots of questions about how well he organized the experiment, but anyway, that's just out there in the sort of pop cultural reality. So people are good, but they're induced to do evil. No, says Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the Russian author. The line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who, after all, is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? In other words, evil is in all of us. So Zimbardo's side says people are good. It's situations that shape us into doing bad. And people can learn to do good, make things better. No, would say Solzhenitsyn, people are essentially bad, and that bad behavior flows from that, and that people cannot become good. There are two theological parallels here. You can work your way back to goodness. You can become good by your efforts, right? And then, theologically speaking, you can get back to God if you work hard enough to become good enough. No, only grace from God allows you to be good. You can't do it on your own. You're under your own power. I think these are fundamentally exclusive. It's hard to see that both of these could be at work here. One is right and the other is wrong, frankly. The other option is to say God doesn't exist and these don't matter. Working your way back to God isn't or getting grace from God aren't relevant. But even the atheist still has the problem of evil and where it comes from. The only repudiation of this argument is to say evil doesn't exist. And it's hard to imagine making such a claim. There's too much empirical evidence to the contrary. So back to our two sides. People from both sides, the grace side and the work side, see material in the Bible that confirms their view. They read their view in the Bible. Works can make you better and get you back to God. No, you need grace from God to be made better. This is a huge disagreement that's been going on for hundreds of years, not yet resolved. So what's this have to do with Lord of the Flies? Well, some people wonder if Lord of the Flies is an allegory for the Bible, if it's a parable, a rewritten story, different setting, different characters, but basically telling the same story. I think there's more evidence that it's not, in part because the evidence for it is weak. Some people I read say that Simon's the Jesus character. I mean, after all, Simon likes everyone. He's kind. He's helpful. He's a little bit hard to understand, but wants to do well for everybody, and knows some things that could save them, and he gets killed for it. Looks kind of similar, except that his death amounts to nothing. He did not come or die to save the boys, either physically or spiritually. So that's a pretty key part of the Jesus story, and Simon doesn't seem to match it. Neither is there original sin in the story. Go back to the Garden of Eden. God created perfection. Adam and Eve were perfect, and it was their being tricked by the devil that allowed them to eat the fruit that they weren't supposed to eat. And this is the first sin, disobedience, that then begets all other human sin. The beast is present on the island, but doesn't trick them into evil. So there are some things that look similar, but not some of the key details are missing. So we are in a garden. The devil is present, though he doesn't trick the boys. He does have his way with them. He does affect their lives deeply. So maybe, yes, it is. One reading of the Bible, again, Solzhenitsyn reading, is that since everyone's heart is evil, there is essential evil in people. And so there may not be an original sin, but there's essential evil present. On the other hand, and I apologize, I don't have a slide for this, you could say, well, the boys only became evil when they were thrust into that situation that they encountered on the island. So is an allegory? I think not. There aren't enough story details that match. But are there touch points? Yes. Lots of things details that seem to reflect spiritual themes and theological claims. What are those? Well, Golding himself says the book's an attempt to trace the defects of society back to the defects of human nature. That seems like he's saying society's bad because we're bad. People are the problem, and society is problematic as a result. We cause society to be bad. Seems to match Solzhenitsyn. On the other hand, the very next sentence in this essay by Golding is to say that the moral of the story is that the shape of society must depend on the ethical nature of the individual and not on any political system. The ethical nature, the moral nature, the spiritual nature of the individual. Okay, all right. So either that could be, sounds like to me like it does read like it must depend on, it is reliant on people being ethical in a good way, which means it's confusing. Is it that people can be good and so we'll be all okay to create a good society? It could still be simply saying people cause society and they cause it to be bad, and that could still be the case. Either way, I think there's a problem, whether he's having it both ways here or he's saying people are the problem. I find it still confusing because the key moment, according to him, his own words, is when Ralph and Jack are arguing, and Ralph says, we've got to follow the rules, and Jack says, bollocks to the rules, we're strong, we hunt. Right? We don't need the rules. We'll do what we want because we're strong. And Ralph says, the rules are all we have. Well, political systems are rules. So our hero, our main character, the one we identify with the most, the one we're sad to see, frustrated, anxious to see, possibly getting killed and his head cut off and offered to the beast, is one who says the rules are all we've got. But we're not embracing that. We have an intellectual resistance to that because, in fact, it's not political systems that matter. So our hero is making a claim that our author actually rejects. Either way, here's what I think is happening. Golding himself is confused, or he's trying to have it both ways. I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna just try to discern an answer that he may or may not even think he was making. But let's get to that. Okay. So, is it that people are the problem, or that people can create a better society, or Or, as I say, he really is simply saying people are the problem, but he has his main character arguing for rule systems that would be the best orientation to ordering society better, which seems counterintuitive to the people with the problem thing. So we got intellectual and philosophical issues either way. So let's look at an encounter that Ralph has with the Lord of the Flies, with the pig's skull that's been left as an offering to the beast, and now is the flesh is all eaten away by the flies that are worshiping their Lord, and there's a skull. Ralph is fleeing from Jack's tribe near the very end of the book, and he runs into the clearing where the skull has been offered up to the beast, and or sits having been offered up to the beast, and we get this paragraph. The skull regarded Ralph like one who knows all the answers but won't tell. A sick fear and rage swept him, Ralph. Fiercely he hit out the filthy thing in front of him that bobbed like a toy and came back till grinning into his face, still grinning into his face. Still he lashed and cried out in loathing. Then he was licking his bruised knuckles and looking at the bare stick while the skull lay in two pieces, its grin now 6 feet across. He wrenched the quivering stick from the crack and held it as a spear between him and the white pieces. Then he backed away, keeping his face to the skull that lay grinning at the sky. Now, another name, the devil has many names, and one of them is Prince of Lies, two of them, Prince of Lies and Father of Lies. And so the skull does know things, does know all the answers, but doesn't tell, or worse yet, knows the answers and lies about them. So I get confirmation, again, that the pig's head is the embodiment of the devil and therefore evil. And Ralph knocks the skull over and breaks apart into two pieces, and then he backs away from this. Now, I think this has a lot of meaning. So you go back to the Hebrew Scripture, the first book of the old, what now is called the Old Testament, what Christians call the Old Testament, Genesis, and we get this God beginning the formation of His people with Abram. He says he's going to make a great people out of Abram. He's going to give him lands and offspring. And Abram, as probably would be most of our want, says, "How do I know you will do this?" And God says to him here in verse 9, "Bring me a heifer as a cow, a female goat, a ram, a turtle, a pigeon." Now, this is awkward for modern people to think that the sacrifices of animals would be undertaken this way. This is a common practice in ancient Near Eastern religion. I don't know about other non-Near Eastern, but plenty of animal sacrifice. So let's put aside that for the moment. And then he's cut these animals in half and lay them against each other. Okay, so we have animals offered up to God as sacrifice and split apart. And then when the sun had gone down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch. Now, God in the Old Testament always presents himself as flame. Moses in the burning bush. The Jews, the Hebrews fleeing Egypt in the Exodus, he leads them through the wilderness by sending a column of fire in front of them. They follow that. So fire is a common mechanism for God to present himself to people. So a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between the pieces of the animals, on that day, and in that way, the Lord made a covenant with Abram. Abram becomes Abraham. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all called Abrahamic religions because they've come from this character, Abraham. The Lord made a covenant. He made a relational arrangement and commitment. Abraham, you ask how you know? I will show you that I have made a commitment to you. I've made a covenant agreement with you to be in relationship to you, as I've shown now by passing myself through these animal pieces. Covenants are more than contracts, but if you want a parallel, this would be, okay, here's the contract. I'm signing it. This is my commitment to you. Okay? Remember this. God makes an agreement of a relationship with Abraham by passing through these pieces of animal. So we get the Lord of the Flies, Beelzebub, which is a name for the devil, broken into two pieces. That head's only there because Jack has presented it as a gift to the beast. So it's not only it's an offering for the beast, but now it's also the embodiment of the beast. Right? And we get Ralph confronting the beast, the embodiment of the beast, knocks her over, and he splits the pieces apart. And then he backs away. He backs away from those two pieces. Now, to me, This reflects his not covenanting with evil. He's not going to make a relational commitment to the devil. He's going to step away from that. So God makes his commitment by passing through the pieces. Ralph is backing away from the pieces, and he, by doing so, is not making his relational commitment to evil or to the devil. And this is where I discern Golding's actual answer, because if you think about the abruptness of the ending, there's a kind of deus ex machina ending of where the naval officer shows up on the island seemingly out of nowhere, right before Ralph's about to be killed. It looks like Ralph's good decision to not covenant with evil is rewarded by being saved. Ralph's choice for goodness saves everybody. And in fact, upon their being rescued, the author begins to had been calling all the boys savages, and then he starts calling them little boys. Again, even Jack, he calls a little boy. Almost as if this salvation by the naval officer has returned them back to their normal state. And it seems that the only possible connection philosophically within the story is that Ralph made this choice for good. And so everything worked out. Up to the point of him being saved by the naval officer, you're looking at the probable plot trajectory is that Ralph's going to be killed and they're all going to burn up. Philosophically speaking, as evil as they all are, as badly as things have gone, they all should die. They all should end up there dying, according to the trajectory of the story. But the Deus Ex Machina ending, God from the machine ending, makes it look like God can swoop in. Again, one could read it, well, yeah, you're right, it's grace out of nowhere. Could be that. But it's also, I contend Ralph made a choice for good, and I can't help but see that as basically Golding pulling his punches. He doesn't want to go the distance with the natural conclusion of his claims about the evil nature of society that stems from our own evil nature, internal nature. So he lets Ralph make a choice for good, and they all then survive. Let me read 55 more times and see if I still am with that or not. But that's one thought I'm having at the moment. Work with that if you'd like, reject it if you like, and have fun with it most of all. Okay, thanks.